would I recite? I wrote a poem this morning when I was coming in the bus in the head, and then sorry, John. I thought that was Joe. John. Can't stop you. I started again. Thought it was Joe, and I realised you half promised. Leave my knee is converting him. So, John, I'll start again. The poem I'm about to read was in my head as I was bumping to Civic from Red Hill on the bus. And when one bumps to Civic from Red Hill on the bus, it's very bumpy, so you can't write. You can't write.
I remember getting car sick on it because of the undulating nature from Red Hill.
It's very undulating.
Yes.
It
was only a couple of months ago I got car sick.
But before I did that, I got up and walked in the garden, because there is a garden in our place. There's an old gentleman who keeps a garden, more or less, okay. And so I've written this poem about the garden, but also about the inside of my flat. And so it's only 4 lines, only a little one, and it's called 7:45 to 55. I think it was boom! Here it is. It's written today as I speak. It's called Domestic Inside Out. And that's the sort of theme, and written on today, which is the birthday of young Nero. I think you know him, Michael, the artist. And
German guy, born in Austria or something.
Well, he was an Austrian. We won't forget him. It's not worth mentioning. And somebody else who was in the arts field there, I can't remember. It wasn't Charlie Chaplin. Anyway, it's called Domestic Inside Out. Green of lime juice bottled spry, stark fawn carpet spread nearby. Brawny outside leaves scat bread, near upward thrusting autumn overhead.
Ah, got the autumn colours in them.
So the autumn colours of the leaves, the autumn red is the tree, sorry. The autumn leaves are scattered on the lawn outside, so the 2 lines are the outside, and then the first 2 lines are the inside, because I've got lime juice, I'm really fond of lime juice,
yes.
And it's in the fridge. And I've got a rather tacky form of carpet, so there you go.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Criticism, please, from Michael. But I'm
Yes.
going to give you a copy if it's good.
Okay, Jonathan passed me a copy. Thank you very much, John.
Distance.
Thanks. Okay.
So criticism.
Yes.
And
Yes, I like the title. You know, it talks about turning something inside out, or like you would a jumper, but it refers to the inside accommodation and the outside of the garden. Yeah, that's good.
What about the words? Do you think they get across?
Yes, the first line certainly conveys the idea of green, and then you've got yes, very vivid colours in each line.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you've got the browny type of carpet, and then you've got the multicoloured scattered leaves, and then you've got the red of the tree.
Brawny is meant to mean brown because it's all brown red.
Yes.
As well as very strong. They've got a strong feeling, very strong nature, even though they're blowing off a tree, so they're dying.
Yes, yes.
And the upward thrusting autumn red.
Yeah, it's very descriptive. The poem's quite descriptive.
So it's a sort of tree, leaves, thorn, outside.
Yeah, I like it, eh? I like it.
Mm.
It's not like the other ones. It's, to me, it's more poetic than most of the stuff you say.
Yeah, the stuff is a bit dry.
Because this is emotional, and sort of whereas Bill often is very descriptive about politics or history or something like that.
Yeah.
Whereas this is more of a, you know, something the feeling you're going through when you're writing a poem.
Yeah, and I think also, unlike John, who's much more gifted than I am, and you can write first up and you've got your poem. I tend to fiddle and muck around and change things and all the rest of it. So even though it's done today, it's been through about 3 or 4 versions. And I think, like you, again, John, I think it's a good idea to keep the poems short if you want to write like that, rather than write a long-winded poem. But you, I believe, have a poem. You have a
well, I've just wrote this. I don't know if it's really a poem. Well, I'll read it and see what comes of it. I'm off for the weekend, up to the Gold Coast I'll go. For single adults it'll be, in the Lord's name we see. It's Hitler's birthday today. Will he be welcome in heaven? If so, I'll see him there. If not, will I be able to teach him?
Good.
Yeah.
No, that's good. Yeah.
Well, someone had to mention it.
Yeah.
And everyone else thinks it's politically incorrect, but
You might
No, I
be
think everything is
converting.
capable
Yeah.
of redemption. John, I think everything's capable of redemption.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just because we have some obstacles and destructive things and disasters doesn't mean we can rise to the challenge and still improve
You
the
can have
world.
a go at it, and I think the rest of it is up to God.
Yeah. Yeah.
What happened when Hitler died is a bit of very interesting speculation. Did he go up, did he go down, or is he still in the middle of it?
Well, everyone's in the middle. No one goes straight to hell, I believe.
What about him?
No one goes straight to heaven either.
I've got to suffer a bit.
It happens after Christ's resurrection. You know,
Oh, I see.
after he
Well,
comes
yes.
back to when the world ends,
Mm.
and that's when it's decided whether you go to heaven or hell. It's very
Yeah.
hard to go to hell. Very, very
Yeah,
hard.
who gets in?
To hell. Well, you have to have known the gospel of Jesus Christ and rejected it.
So does Satan go to hell?
What's that?
He's already there.
He's
He's
the
a
first,
fallen
first
angel.
tenant.
He's the master of it.
He's a fallen angel, yeah.
But how many others have made it? I suppose others have, like you mentioned, those who rejected the gospel.
If they've been taught the gospel, then rejected it. And those that would never receive the body to come to earth, because
It's interesting.
there's about a quarter of the hosts or a third of the hosts of heaven never actually received the body, and will never receive the body to come to earth.
It's interesting. What about purgatory? We were always taught there was a sort of another place where you went and you suffered and then you ascended. Do you believe in that?
That's in the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I don't know anything about the Catholic.
Well, they used to make money out of that because they
Yeah,
could
no.
convince the people that their relatives were in purgatory,
Yeah.
and in order to help them get out, they had to pay money to the church and things like that. And that's why Martin Luther, because he thought this was the law.
One
You
of
know,
the
they
biggest
just made
schemes
money out
of
of
the
this. Yeah.
Catholic Church.
Not now. I think Luther did that in like a minute. No, I think Luther was right. The church was. The Fuggers, remember the Fuggers?
Vaguely.
Groups who what were they? They were money lenders. And they went around flocking indulgences. And
Indulgences, so
and
many
Luther
indulgences,
was so
yeah.
disgusted when he came to Rome with all these people flocking to his indulgences, where you bought and you were then given paradise. But he was right. I mean, it was good. I mean, the Reformation was a very healthy thing. I think
Because it meant that people who were greedy or maybe rich, they said, I don't have to behave because my relatives, when I die, they'll get me out of hell, they'll pay, and
well, it was like Earth. I mean, Earth was like that. It still is.
yeah.
I mean, if you know people in rich places here in Canberra, you can rise to the paradise of the 10th and the 20th floor of whatever building you want to. It's still there. It's a very human that sort of thing. If you
Yeah.
made it, if you're rich, you get eternal life. Marco, you haven't got a poem there, have you? Well, I might recite my other one, if I may,
Good.
which is a bit
Well, what if
more-
you get Michael to read the other one?
No.
Oh, fair
But I'll keep
You can pass one on to me, John. Thank you, John.
Now, I think the reader and
No,
the
no.
writer.
So I can see your hand.
Come on, move.
Thank you.
Move, baby, move. Yeah. This one's called A Bus, a Book, a Poem. And it's a funny one. It's a complicated one. It's not funny. It's been good.
That's quite poetic. The title is quite poetic.
Well, it's one I wrote on the bus reading a book. It's called The
About a poet?
No, it was about the 19th century and the way they thought.
So was it poetical?
No, it wasn't poetical. It was more sort of informative. It was seminar in Sydney. It was put into the book. It was called Between Two Worlds. And they were looking at in the book about the Australian radicals that they were doing in the 19th century. So that's very specific. What they were doing for the Republic, changing the world, but not radicalising the society. And there was one essay in it by a bloke who was a fairly conservative fellow, it was a pretty good essay, where he looked at Australian radicals. And he poured all sorts of scorn on them in a very, very learned way. In fact, it's very cleverly written. And I respect the man's opinions, and I think they're very good. But in the end, I felt that he was saying that because they rejected, he could his interpretation, religion, which I don't think many of them did. I think many of them were very religious people in slightly different ways. They just didn't have a clue about a republic, and the republic would never come about because they didn't do this and they didn't do that. Didn't quite do it that way. It was a very, very interesting book. It's this one. Yes, the man's name is John Patrick Morgan. And it was a very provocative sort of thing. So I was reading this in this bumping bloody bus again, and I thought I'd sort of make a poem. It's about 17 lines. Stephen, you remember Stephen?
I remember him. Stephen Holt.
Holt, indeed. Stephen Holt had a look at it and put a few revisions and opinions on it, and I'm very grateful that people would give me a few thoughts on this. On a lurching on-time bus or Red Hills pitted roads, I read Between Two Worlds as an earnest driver ploughs loops and bumps and parleys pothole nose. 6:50 a.m. twixt sleep and work and autumn russet glows. I ponder 19th century nationalism and the loss of God. To earth-made paradise minus Jesus found God's hard line. To Darwin's nature self-select and Marx's labour cycle. I read this in a print repeat of 1978 talking 79. The domain of the London Stevens poem a century before, heard with joy, voiceful tremors of the sky. Auroral dawn, heralds whispering, she is nigh. Henry Lawson with Republican go-getting, the South to rise and rid the world of errors, and wrongs and lies making hell in a paradise that belongs to your sons and you. Not so yet, it seems, as Patrick writes, Stan Parker's eyes see God in all his glory as a shining god of spit. Perhaps a grain of sand, maybe a pinch of shit. So there you go, you can see God in anything.
Yeah, well...
So it's a complicated poem, I'm sorry, it does seem a bit...
Yeah, it's a bit,
bit odd, but it's meant sort of...
Yeah, meant to be that way.
It's meant to have a certain...
Meant to make people think.
It's meant to make people think. It's meant to sort of not come down with opinions, hence the perhaps and maybes, yeah, rather than definite sort of... I mean, Patrick Weiss, Melbourne Weiss, has an old man who's going goes with a stick, being visited by a very earnest Seventh-day Adventist, and the Seventh Day Adventists, but they're a bit over the top sometimes. Miss Lab jumped over the fence and said, "Have you been saved, brother?" And you go to the whole, and the old bloke was, he's looking at me, and he said, "Man," he said, "I see, which is, I think, theologically interesting because God is everywhere. God is in
Yeah, that's true.
a gobble of
Meant to be
spit,
everywhere, isn't
or even a pinch of spit. I mean, this is the thing. So it's meant to be. I know Michael's not a Christian, and you might find a bit of a Christian.
Oh, well, I admire many different religions, including Christianity. But this poem would probably, what you're saying in this maybe is to get people talking about certain things you mentioned in the poem. There's about 20 or 30 different things you have a conversation about.
Yeah. It's interesting because you're looking at a book, you're looking at this two blokes, Henry Lawson and this other fellow, talking about republicanism on the one hand, and talking in a sort of a rather woozy way of the world around us. And then
there's a whole lot of stuff.
And then Patrick White comes in.
And
Patrick White does get a mention in this place, as they write in the end. But his mention's interesting in that he more or less says that he's having to go at republicanism. He's saying if republicanism and God and all the things that are in this essay are true, they don't amount to anything at all. Now, it's rather odd, it was rather funny. He's very subtle. He's a Catholic, so he's probably the same, coming from the same lot that I do. But I like the essay because it was a bit like my poetry. This one, it was a bit more. It must have worked with John too. People, John's reading. He's a busy man. Moving, all that stuff. Yeah. So see God in all His glory as a shining ball of spit, perhaps the grain of sand.
Yeah.
It's a bit wordy, Michael.
Yeah, well, that's what I suppose it's for people who are interested in having long intellectual discussions, I suppose they could talk about quite a few things mentioned in this poem. They could,
Yeah.
It's certainly a conversation starter, perhaps.
This book was between two worlds, and the theme of some of the essays was loss of faith in late 19th century Australian literature. People going away from God or attempting to get away from God. And I don't think anybody can get away from God. I think God chases you like the hound of heaven, whether you're pretty low or not. That's in some of the essays here. Manning Clark wrote one, but this fellow, this rather right-wing Catholic Patrick Morgan, I think wrote one of the best ones. It's much more provocative. It's much longer and much more detailed. And it goes into much more detail than I ever in the poem. One of the things I suppose I'm trying to do is just react in a much more straightforward way, although the poem is quite complex, to what he was trying to do. I'll give it to you to have a look at, Michael, if you can.
No,
you can't.
I'll have a look at it later.
So there you go. And that's what poetry does to me in my old age. It's a lovely method of keeping alive. Is that the right expression?
Right. Well.
So give us some criticism and suggestions for amendments, Michael. Because Stephen came and he actually made some very interesting remarks. I had it originally in 3 bits. One liner right at the end of a stanza of about 4 lines and another. He said, "Don't do that, just put it all together."
Did Stephen suggest that?
He did suggest that, and it's very good to get these suggestions because, And there was another line I put that really meant nothing about the book, which I just cut out completely because I think to end on shit and starting the bus.
Yes.
Probably through the reading. And you can't really read bus in a way. It was a bit like the road to paradise. It's bumpy. And hence the idea of the rail and it's busy. It's got a whole load. I'll put it later.
Right, well,
so Michael, let's hear your criticisms.
Yeah, I think you're probably crammed in a whole lot of things. In a way, some of these things deserve a poem on their own, some of the many references you made. And I suppose to really be able to get all of what you put in here, you'd have to have read all those things that you mentioned. And most people probably haven't read what Phil's referring to.
I think technically you're right, but if you did that, you spend all the time reading. You can read the essence of the book by looking at it. And, I mean, I got the essence. Just no, for you.
Oh, thank you.
And I think there's another one for you. Thank you. We should be giving them to you. And you've got.
Yeah, well, I'll read this along and I'll get it.
Yeah, over to you, John.
Okay. I'll just write another one. Are you religious or are you not? What do you believe? In whose name you trust? We all have our own beliefs, each to their own. What are your thoughts? Your actions tell it all. In bog I trust, hope I don't fall. In bog I don't fall. In bog I trust. Bog is Nedzat for God. Nedzat, the language in A Clockwork Orange.
Ah, okay. So is bog?
Bog is
God.
Is God.
For God speak.
See, if I was to if you asked me, define God, I would say a mystery. In other words, something I'm learning about every day. I learn a bit more.
Yeah.
That's the way I would say.
Yeah.
If I was to say
Yeah,
God.
so you quite just say it again, mate. It's
Yeah, read it again.
Are you religious or are you not? What do you believe? In whose name you trust? We all have our own beliefs, each to their own. What are your thoughts? Your actions tell it all. In bog I trust, hope I don't fall.
That's nice. It's very good. Yeah, bog I trust, which is public orange, isn't it?
It's just the translation for God in Nedzat.
Yeah, interesting. Well, I saw a poem I'm reading at the moment called by Graham Greene. Oh, but it's called Brighton Rock, which is a sort of droogy sort of, yeah, very droogy thing. It's like Clockwork Orange. Anyway, Michael, continue. Pray, I interrupted you.
Reading through it, it sparks a lot of ideas in my head, you know. It makes me contemplate some things, and you can start a lot of philosophical discussions about it.
But I think it's more than philosophical, it's really a matter of benefit in a way. Some people consider it important, but you can at least think, work out some sort of way that you can be at one with the internet. That's a pretty important question. I don't think many Australians ever really think about it this way, particularly in the male of the species. I think women are better, and they have a much more. And this guy, thinking, murders somebody, and then doesn't suicide, near suicides, but he's thrown out. And he's a Catholic.
Yeah. Does he come back to the light?
Well, that's what Graham's a Catholic, and he sort of suggests that maybe he did, but it's all in the book, and it's not in the film. The film, I think, fudges.
Well, that's the same as Clockwork Orange, the book and the film. The film doesn't have the last chapter in it, so.
Films often are much more provocative, and one of the things about religion theology in the present day world, and that's what it's the same thing, about 1979 or sort of thing. It did face up to some of these questions, and Patrick certainly faced up. Manning Clark did. All the others were looking at the literary qualities of these dissenting people who wanted to sort of have a republic that was very strong movement. Some of them wanted Marxism, some of them wanted socialism, some of them wanted and that is the problem. Still with us. get all these little groups around. Well, you maybe don't. Maybe they're not as plentiful as I think there's a man at the door now.
Oh, well,
You know,
I used to work from Smoking House.
Thank you very much, John. Thank you. Lovely.
oh, that's good. Excellent. But you were saying, Michael,
Yeah, I think,
because religion is important. I mean, I give you that. As one who's not a practicing Christian by any means, I still believe that. I haven't acted on it much, but it's a poetry. Thinking about it. Do you want to know, Michael, your thoughts?
yeah, so, yeah, it's sort of,
Bit complicated.
I mean, yeah, it's like, yeah, like life's complicated.
Yeah, but it is a complicated.
So it's sort of, I think people jump to conclusions a bit.
Well, welcome home. You
Capricorn. Once more and reach your face once more and close all up the races.
That's right. It was one of your words.
That's right. Peace, nothing so becomes a man as long as skills.
Yeah.
How are you?
Good, mate.
Hey.
We're all sort of poeticising.
Well, that's why I thought Shakespeare might be
Shakespeare
able to
lives. Yeah.
align them well.
There's a little bit of Shakespeare in all of it.
Yeah.
On the run.
There you go. Thank you.
Michael, over to you again.
Yes, I think it's not right to say that, oh, look, things have changed, people don't believe in God anymore, and this sort of thing. It's just that the conversation changes, but it's still the same dilemmas. People still have the same dilemmas, they're just put in a different way, and that unsettles people who are used to hearing it in an old-fashioned way 50 years ago. And they think people have lost it, but they just express it in a different way, and they don't understand the young way of talking and things like that. But they're moral and ethical, and they have the same ethical dilemmas, and they're all trying to improve themselves and, trying not to repeat the mistakes of the past. And, yeah.
But I think in the end you've got to, my answer to go over is to try and live what I believe. In other words, not go to the food hall because the cross is, in my opinion, wrong, a corrupt organisation, poking the people's business, as they did when New Boat came. And so I decided to stay away. And I took that decision. It wasn't a theological decision, it was a decision just on the road. I fear that the Red Cross is now. I don't have the same fears about United Churches, as we said. Feeds the poor and it doesn't go into this. It even has Monique. Have Monique. Living example. Christian charity.
This organisation is also interested in getting money.
Well, charity is the pure love of Christ.
Well, do you think this place
That's what
yes,
charity means.
yes, but this place is...
Gets a lot of money, a lot more than the Red Cross. They get millions of dollars here.
Well,
the
it's
Red
much
Cross gets perhaps some assistance with leasing the building, and that's it.
But the Red Cross's actions are not as reliable as this place. Much more. They put up with a lot of people who are conflicted in a much better
The
way.
real spirit of what you're talking about the good things, that happens really just on Tuesday. And that is volunteers coming in, you see. The rest of the time, it's people who pay, and then you get the good-natured volunteers who actually serve breakfast. They're volunteers, but otherwise it's really a lot of money. It's based on a lot of money. And I think Boxing Day also, you'll see some volunteers coming in here. But that's what the spirit
But you
of
never
being
pay.
is.
You never pay to come here.
So
You don't pay when you to eat.
the customers don't. No, but the government pays millions of dollars to the church to have this place.
And other things.
Yeah, and they've just got an additional amount of money, so much that they really don't know what to provide for it.
This is
To
providing,
do all this building and so on. And then,
providing homeless with baths and things.
well, that's one of the plans, but that's with additional, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's what I think.
after already having million dollars, they got another lot. They got so much that they can't really justify it just for those. So then they've got to provide additional services.
But this is no matter, isn't it? I mean, if churches of any kind got to go, they need money. You can't get away from that. If the arts funding people have their writers' centre, they need money. If the Griffin Centre keeps going, it needs money. There's nothing inherently wrong with that. But what I do find is the attitude of that woman who went across his name, I don't want to remember, to me were very, very, very harsh and discriminatory, and I can see a little bit of that in a young bloke, red-headed fellow that's taking over. I don't want to part of a group like that. So I've withdrawn myself, whereas before, it was a rat house and you had Paddy going mad, you know, runs coming in and being thrown out and all the rest of it. But now I find it's not got that...
So you're not impressed with the new young bloke?
No, I'm not.
There's a third one, there's Ben, there was Linda, and now there's this guy.
No, Ben was all right.
I like him, yeah.
Well, but I found I could at least...
Oh, thanks, yeah.
I could at least tell him off without,
Yeah. You didn't let him worry about it. You didn't let him worry about it. He didn't like people complaining.
And I came there for a while when my mum was there. Linda, she's been beaten down.
Well, I think it was too much for her. She's only there for a couple of months, not off she went. She says she's gone to the Ayers Rock to wind down, to relax.
You know, if you're that nervous, quality, maybe you should be in charge of a madhouse. I mean, I don't know, but I think she was definitely on vacation. And this is part of living too. You've got to find something that you follow.
John, he was just waiting to you there.
Yeah. No, he's busy. So what do you think, John, of all this stuff?
It's pretty interesting.
Pretty much life, isn't it?
Yeah.
You can't get away from, you can't run away from money.
No,
It's there.
everyone needs money to be able to, you've got to pay the rent, you've got to eat, you've got to,
Exactly. And this is where a lot of people converge here because of no money, they've misspent it anyway, but that's not
But
us to inquire.
yeah, but then this place still needs money to run,
Of
doesn't
course
it?
it does.
So
Probably more than the people over in
that's why we need the government, isn't it?
Yes, you've got to have it. And you've got to have the government paying back taxes which we pay.
Yes.
And it's our money and
It's
that's
just one vicious cycle.
Well, it is a bit vicious, particularly so in Canberra, and I find that viciousness entering into the way the food Red Cross Road has done. The Haris are gentle, wonderful people. Their food's scarce, but they're very nice people.
Like even back in New Zealand, I used to go to the Hare Krishnas and that too.
And the Masons, I find, very reliable people, but I'm afraid the Red Cross at the moment, from whispers I've heard about just how they operate. I mean, you need money from the government, but you don't need corruption. I've heard whispers, all the whispers. I haven't got concrete evidence. The Red Cross is a pretty...
Well, what you can say about the Red Cross is that they are probably amongst the best performers as far as money getting goes. And that's not from the government, but just the general public. They're flooding the donations. Like the Harris wouldn't get the flood of donations that the Red Cross gets.
Yeah, because like out on the street you see Red Cross
Yeah.
doing that.
Yeah, and the Masons wouldn't get
And that's
flood
one,
either.
that's one thing I hate about it is when, people hassle you for money all the time.
Yeah.
Out on the street there.
Well, there's lots of Red Cross, there's lots of Amnesty International people. I mean, I'm giving $20 to Amnesty International, and I don't begrudge that. It's not much, but that was somebody very persistent.
Yeah, well, they do get it.
And it's nicer when they get donations through the mail because those people with a colour t-shirt, a bright coloured t-shirt with this, they get a huge commission and really what you're giving, only a small portion actually go because they don't be paid. Whereas when you send an envelope, you don't have to pay for these people, understand?
In a pure society, you can operate that way, but in a society like this, you've got a compromise to do that.
But that's why they're out there hassling everyone
Exactly.
so as they get their cut.
They've got a commission, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, look, that's the world. And maybe they're living on fairly short rations too, I don't know. I mean, I was working in the public service, or making an attempt to work in the public service for many years. I wouldn't work as hard as I should. But, you know, I can pay for it and I'm now got superannuation. And that's unfair.
Yeah.
I mean, Michael's been, not on any pension at all. He goes around the streets eating bread and apples and things. And,
I had some superannuation when I got invalided out of the public service.
but you're getting a superannuation payment now still, eh?
No, I'm just saying that, because I was employed for a while in public service, before I got invalided out, I had superannuation.
Yeah. But I just feel, yeah, it's survival.
We all survive.
Well, I find it a challenge to see on how little you can survive on,
Well, you do that because you starve yourself. And good on you for doing that. You're like a monk in the middle ages sitting on the top of a pole. And, I'm not saying that disrespectfully. I mean, that's a very, very worthy thing that you're doing. And you're not shouting it from the rooftops that you're doing it, you're just doing it.
Yeah.
But I find it, a bit unrealistic. I don't know if I can do that. It will have to be me, I have to at least have to do. Now I'm paying more, my grand will be cheaper restaurants.
Yeah, well, I live on hard money. Just live. Because all my money goes
You gotta
on.
look at the kid before you go.
Yeah, all my money goes on getting musical instruments so that I can. So I've got a studio at home.
But you've got a purpose, and you've got your religion, and you've got a way of looking at things. And I think that's important to do, rather than just going one bumping along every day.
Yeah.
I mean, if it wasn't for this poetry, that's why that I worked for the Music Society too, I was totally lost.
Yeah.
Totally lost. And I'd be walking the streets thinking, Jim.
Yeah.
And I think we've got to have a bit of that. Michael runs around very good. He'll probably be in the same boat.
The most people that are doing good actually don't think they are doing good in their own mind.
Well, Linda thought she was doing good, but she was just being
Yeah.
And I'm afraid it came, and she went going to areas where I've been playing with girls, is not what I'm going to be. I think she's a woman that's mad. Mad. What do you think?